yesterday, did we talk about groundwater interactions, groundwater mechanics, the cone and the pileup of water and the depression of water? Yes? Did we, hey Jackie, what's up, dude? Did we talk about how cities interact with groundwater? Did not do this one?
No.
So I'm afraid that we're I thought it was this period. We're the furthest behind of any of my classes. I need to beg you to please be cooperative today. We have a lot of ground to cover. And I'm also going to have to assume that you've done your homework. Number 13 was about this diagram. This is 21.3 in your book. There are 6 ways that your book discusses groundwater is affected by cities. I will hope that you do your homework, so I'm not going to discuss all of them. But I would like to talk about one of them. In case you didn't number them in your book, number 1 is the way that groundwater levels are lowered by extraction. Number 3 is how sewage treatment adds nutrients to groundwater. Number 4 is how agriculture lowers the water table and adds nutrients. Number 5 is how reservoirs add recharge capacity. And number 6 is how septic tanks can cause contamination of groundwater. But number 2, your book kind of mentions something that to me is a really big deal. And this also comes up in number 14 and 17. Keep in mind that cities are like a giant umbrella over a recharge zone. Water does not soak in where you have a city. Think about it. When it rains on the roof, terracotta, asphalt, gutter down in Canon Perdido, that goes into a storm drain, that goes into a pipe all the way out to San Cifuentes, then it joins a bigger pipe that parallels Laguna and goes all the way out to the ocean by Chase Palm Park. Like every other roof in Santa Barbara, and every other sidewalk, and every other road, and every other storm gutter, cities prevent recharge. Instead, we use all of that free water from the Jesus Tears to wash away dog poo and bum piss and high school deviant barf, plastic wrappers, cigarette butts, chemicals from the rose garden, oil from all your cars, brake dust from the roads. Instead of recharging groundwater, cities prevent recharge and instead turn that into polluted runoff, which coincidentally goes into the river or ocean, which is where somebody else gets their water or somebody else gets their food. Yes?
So is runoff by definition polluted?
No, not by definition. Runoff can be perfectly clean. It's just, practically speaking, it's not usually.
So is it just like surface water that flows down the surface?
Yes.
Okay.
And so in nature, runoff from the hillside, that's just clean creek water. But unfortunately, water is the circulatory system that washes away all of our sins, so to speak. So whatever we've done to the surface that's not friendly and that's not pretty, that also is carried by the runoff. That's why I said, practically speaking, it is usually polluted. It's very rare that humans can be a presence on land and not make some sort of impact in runoff. Okay, I want to remind you guys that thing about how cities prevent recharge and pollute runoff, that will come up later. That's kind of one of the key facts in this unit. Number 14 I'm going to skip, and number 15 I'd like to do quickly. Does anybody know conclusively how to pronounce that?
Ogayala. Oji Alala.
Set it out, Diego. Set it out. You can do it, bro. Commit, dude. Commit. Don't give up. Okay, give up. I think it's Ogallala, but I'm open to someone correcting me if they have some reason to believe otherwise. I think it's Ogallala. I'll show you. This is the largest body of rock that contains water in the United States. I am certain that it has more water than all the surface water of the U.S., but someone told me it has more water than all the surface water of the Earth. And I don't know if I believe that. It is definitely more than the United States has on land, and it might be more than the whole world has on land. I don't know if I believe that last part.
Did the Great Lakes count?
Yeah. Suffice it to say, it's very large. Much more water than the Great Lakes. Look back here. There was a time during the last ice age when all of North America was covered in ice. All the way down to the Mexican border, really. And as that ice was retreating, like at this moment, all of this was forest and swampland. Fast forward to the present. Now, it's the Great Basin deserts. Definitely bone dry today. But all that water soaked in when it was a swamp. People call this fossil water because it's been there for like 10 or 15,000 years. It's not like fossil fuel, but the term is, like old water, fossil water. When people started to map this supply of water, they were like, oh my God, we're going to put all the cornfields here. This is what made the Corn Belt. You can see that there are a couple of nice rivers and everything, but that groundwater supply was plentiful. Anywhere you are, on top of that aquifer, you can hit water 50 to 100 feet down or something. Maybe 50 to 100 meters. Either way, relatively shallow. You might be able to dig a well by hand. Definitely you can do that with some drill bits and some technology. So we put a straw down into the groundwater. You know your laptop is on? Yeah. And we took out a lot of water. And you can imagine, if Gabe over there has a very, very large farm, he might be able to afford a very, very deep well. Meanwhile, I'm a couple miles away in middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, and homeboy sucks down the water table until my city runs dry. Another farmer nearby now gets into an arms race to see who can dig the deeper well. Another city nearby, when they get started, they can make a new well that's even deeper than any of ours. And so the Ogallala Aquifer is probably one of the most famous tragedy of the commons for shared groundwater supplies. How do I regulate how much water Andrew Fay sucks out of the ground? The way that we wrote water policy, he's got water rights on his property, and I've got water rights on my property. We impact each other because we share that aquifer all the way like 3 states over. with that Realty guy, and all the way over here with that Carlotan guy. We don't even have to know each other, but we're impacting each other's water supply. Classic tragedy of the commons. Literally farmers creating ghost towns and cities putting farms out of business. Literally. Very well-known example. We've been using this groundwater supply since like the Dust Bowl days or earlier. Really, we got very good at groundwater in the 30s and the 40s. And by the way, a perfect example of how not to use groundwater, because we have withdrawn it much more quickly than it has been returned into the ground. Number 16 is about desal. I just wanted to show you a couple of little factoids and a couple little pictures. Does everybody know that you don't actually turn oil into water in desalination? You turn salt water into water. But we say turning oil into water because it takes a lot of energy. So you turn the oil into the energy that's required to turn salt water into fresh. Oil to water. So numero uno, hi.
Okay. Concept your doors are messed up.
Right.
Both of them are slow.
Primarily that one. They certainly don't latch on their own unless I put a little pressure. But that one is very difficult to close. So I think that over the years we have